the free LinkedIn app today.
Did you know your favorite radio stations are in your pocket? Yes, the TuneIn app lets you listen to the same radio stations you pick up on your home or car radio anywhere you want. To see all the stations broadcasting in your area, find the local radio section on the home screen. Keep it local with TuneIn.
Want to hear about the latest and greatest things to listen to on TuneIn? For reminders of the biggest live sports games, debates, and breaking news stories, follow @TuneIn on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram to stay connected with the audio that matters to you.
Cutting for the net, scores! On the goal line, Marchand scores!
Hockey fans, the 2019-20 NHL season is here.
And tucks it home!
And with this team, it's really fun to be a part of a team like that.
You can hear the action live on TuneIn Premium. From regular season action to the All-Star Game and through the Stanley Cup in June. Hear the home and away call for every game, for every team live. At home or on the go, never miss a game with the NHL on TuneIn Premium.
Upgrade today.
With 2020 on the horizon, TuneIn continues looking back at the stories that shaped the 2010s.
In 2010, the passing of the Affordable Care Act brings Obamacare to millions of uninsured Americans. In 2015, a ruling by Supreme Court legalizes same-sex marriage across the country. And in 2018, millions of students skip school to protest for stronger gun control in the March for Our Lives.
Search news on TuneIn to be listening when the next decade's big headlines break.
Back to throw, fires right on the slant. Caught, touchdown, leaps, and he surges in, touchdown!
This Saturday at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time, the lights shine bright on the Las Vegas Bowl. Washington Huskies head coach Chris Peterson will coach his final game before retiring as he takes on his former school, the Boise State Broncos.
Down to the 5, he leaps for the end zone, and he is in!
To listen to this and every bowl game, just search college football today.
Right now, instead of hearing this, you could be listening to the music that keeps you moving with TuneIn Premium. Find today's biggest songs and all of your favorites commercial-free. Visit TuneIn.com/premium to upgrade.
Hey, NFL fan, can't watch the game? Can't be there? We've got you covered. With TuneIn Premium, you can listen to every NFL game live as it's happening.
LaShawn McCoy has an opening on the right side, punches into the end zone for the touchdown.
Or catch it later on demand.
Offset backs behind Mahomes. The give is to Williams. Starts right, cuts it back to the left, and blows into the end zone for the touchdown.
You call the plays. Follow the NFL anytime, anywhere, all season long with TuneIn Premium. Upgrade today.
Spend Christmas Day listening to the NBA on TuneIn Premium. Featuring 5 big matchups on the holiday schedule. Unwrap the action starting at 12 Eastern when the Celtics take on the Raptors in Toronto, followed by the Bucks and the 76ers at 2:30. The holiday cheers continue with the Rockets and Warriors at 5 and the Clippers and Lakers at 8. And a showdown between the Pelicans and Nuggets at 10:30. 'Tis the season with the NBA on TuneIn Premium. Upgrade today.
Want TuneIn to remind you when the big NFL game is about to get underway? Be sure notifications are allowed on your phone and search NFL on the TuneIn app. Find the game you want to hear under events and tap Notify Me. We'll let you know exactly when it's time to listen in for kickoff.
Markets, headlines, and breaking news 24 hours a day at Bloomberg.com, the Bloomberg Business app, and on Quick Take by Bloomberg. This is a Bloomberg Business Flash. Stocks have eased off earlier gains. Investors are checking out a flurry of corporate news as the impeachment vote looms and trade worries retreated. Treasuries are down and the British pound is also lower. We check the numbers every 15 minutes throughout the trading day here on Bloomberg Radio. The S&P 500 is little changed, up 1. The Dow's little changed, up 11. And the Nasdaq's up 0.1%, up 9. The 10-year is down 8.30 seconds, the yield 1.90%. West Texas Intermediate crude is down 0.3% at $60.75 a barrel. COMEX gold is up just about 0.1% at $14.8170 an ounce. The dollar yen, 109.51. The euro, $1.1129, and the British pound, $1.3080. Marathon Asset Management's diving deeper into distressed debt with a new fund dedicated to investing in troubled companies. The Marathon Distressed Credit Fund is in the process of raising nearly $2 billion in capital, according to Bloomberg sources. That is a Bloomberg Business Flash. I'm Greg Jarrett. You're listening to Bloomberg Markets with Lisa Abramowitz and Paul Sweeney on Bloomberg Radio.
It is a historic day in Washington, D.C. as the House debates the Trump impeachment guidelines currently and is poised for a vote on the impeachment proceedings. A lot of people are perhaps shrugging this off as feeling sort of inevitable. But here with us, I'm so pleased to say, who has the historical reference of 20 years in public service, including working in all three branches of the federal government, is Chris Liu, senior fellow at the University of Virginia Miller Center, which studies the presidency. He's also a former senior White House aide to President Obama. Chris, so good to have you. Can you paint today in a historic sort of picture to understand the importance, even if people sort of shrug it off as somewhat inevitable? It will be passed by the House and shot down by the Senate.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's exactly right. Whether you think this is a good idea or not a good idea, it's a historic moment. The President Trump is set to be only the third president ever impeached. There was a fourth, Richard Nixon, who didn't quite even make it to this point before he resigned. And so, you know, what is being discussed today and inevitably how the Senate trial goes will be setting guardrails for future presidencies in a good or bad way. And so, look, you know, politics is what this is all about. I mean, I don't mean that in a bad way, but we always think about this in political terms. But this is really a historical thing that will be studied for many years after this.
So, Chris, let's fast forward a little bit. I'm kind of making the assumption that the House will vote to impeach today. We get to the Senate, and it appears like the Republicans are the leadership, Mitch McConnell, Lindsey Graham, and so on, are coordinating with the White House and maybe not even going to call any witnesses. How common or unusual is that?
Well, look, I don't think the coordination is uncommon. I think the, openly bragging about the coordination, which is what the Mitch McConnell is saying, as well as Lindsey Graham saying, look, I'm not even going to try to be fair. A lot of people have analogized the senators to jurors. They're kind of like jurors, but they're kind of judges as well. And I think what you've seen in previous impeachments is at least senators kind of at least saying, we're going to try to objectively look at the facts. And I think what's less clear here is how that Senate trial is going to go down, because ultimately it's up to a majority of senators as to whether they want to call additional witnesses or simply rest on the record that was developed in the House.
So given what you were talking about, that this impeachment proceeding will set guardrails in a way and guidelines for future presidencies, what are you watching in terms of the developments today and the future ones that are expected in the Senate that will give us a sense of how this is going?
Well, it is interesting. The most recent example we have is obviously the Clinton impeachment, which dealt with both perjury and obstruction of justice. And so a majority of the House impeached President Clinton on that. Again, it was largely a partisan vote. So if that's sort of the floor of what qualifies as an impeachable offense, and then you go back to the Watergate impeachment, where, again, it was abuse of power, obstruction of justice, obstruction of Congress, that was sort of at a different level. You probably put the Trump impeachment probably closer to Watergate than to Clinton. But the fact that, many of the same people who voted for the Clinton impeachment will now vote against the Trump impeachment does leave you sort of scratching your head as to how you can rationalize these things intellectually.
So, Chris, there's been some reporting that, behind closed doors, many Republicans say, we're not really supportive of President Trump, his administration, and many of his policies, but we got to support him here. Are you surprised that we haven't had any Republicans or any meaningful number of Republicans come out against Trump? And will we see it in maybe today's vote or in the Senate?
Well, it is sort of interesting. I mean, I think we will expect to see today essentially three members of Congress break from their parties. Justin Amash, formerly a Republican, has already switched to an independent. Jeff Van Drew, a Democrat, will vote against impeachment and then leave his party. So essentially, of the three people who will vote against impeachment, two have had to leave their party. Contrast that with Clinton. There was probably, a half dozen to a dozen members on either side who sort of flipped votes. And I think in large measure it reflects the partisanship that we have in this country right now. People famously remember the Watergate moment when both House and Senate Republican leaders went to Richard Nixon and said, look, we don't we can't condone your behavior. We don't have the support. If you don't resign, we're going to impeach you. You know, that was 45 years ago. You can't really imagine that kind of conduct by Republican leaders in this current climate.
I'm trying to understand that, it's really important that you mention that this is a really partisan issue, and that's part of the reason why sort of there's this image being painted that there's an apathy about the proceedings. It's just sort of political theater. But can you sort of paint this also in terms of how unusual it is, or is this common? I mean, was the Nixon impeachment also viewed as very much of just a partisan issue?
Yeah, there's a couple ways to look at it. One is based on public opinion polls. Right now, it's depending on which poll you look at, about 46 to 54% of the American public believes that President Trump should be impeached. That's significantly higher than what was the case in Clinton, where support for impeachment never really crossed 40%. And really, in the Nixon impeachment, it only crossed that mark at the very end, about the month before he finally resigned. Did support for impeachment cross 50%? So, and I think in some measure reflects that these charges against President Trump are easy to understand, and people can sort of make their assessment one way or another, whether it's improper. But I think it also reflects the partisan nature of our country right now. We are a 50-50 country, and what's unfortunate here is that this is a historic moment. This is one of the most solemn responsibilities that a member of Congress can undergo, and for many of these members of Congress, this will be the most consequential vote that they will take in Congress. And yet everything is sort of being seen through a partisan political lens instead of an impartial examination of the facts and law, which is, I don't expect to see much of that on the House floor today. I'm hoping when we get to the Senate, we're able to do a little bit of that.
Okay, Chris, thanks so much for joining us. We really appreciate your insight here into what is, again, as you suggested, and characterized as a historic day. Chris Liu is a senior fellow at the University of Virginia Miller Center, which studies the presidency. He's also a former senior White House aide to President Obama. So interesting getting Chris's well-informed comments about the process, about the likelihood of how this will proceed as we make the vote today through the House, and then we get to the Senate. So we will have all of that for you coming up. Right now, let's head down to our 99.1 studios in Washington, D.C. to Amy Mars for an impeachment hearing update. Amy.
All right, thank you, Paul. The House of Representatives began consideration of articles of impeachment against President Trump. Republicans started off the morning with that motion to adjourn, clearly. It took about a half an hour, though, for all the members to be able to vote to continue that session because they weren't really all there yet. Republican leader Kevin McCarthy also says that earlier this year, you may recall House Speaker Nancy Pelosi had said that impeachment really wasn't the way to go. He maintains they still haven't met that criteria. The lawmakers in the House gaveling in session nearly 2 hours ago. The rule requires 6 hours of debate before the vote. Republicans have been proposing changes to the rule. Basically, what they're doing now is debating the rule that sets the parameters for the debate over impeachment. Expect this to be a long day. We are going to bring you a live report from Capitol Hill coming up in 15 minutes. And Bloomberg Terminal customers can watch the debate on the House floor at Live Go.
You know it's out there somewhere, but you just keep missing out. I'm talking about your dream job. Now it's easier to find and land your next role with the LinkedIn app. Build connections, keep in touch, and be the first to hear about new jobs. LinkedIn has more openings than applicants. And sometimes all it takes is one LinkedIn connection to land the job that's right for you. Don't miss out. Get your next big break and find the job meant for you. Download the free LinkedIn app today.
Some people get very excited by Christmas shopping, and they've probably done all theirs already back in July. But if the thought of Christmas shopping gives you sweaty palms, tell yourself, I'm not a shopper, I'm a gifter. Then as a gifter, the possibilities are endless with TK Maxx. Give more adventurously with TK Maxx's range of whoa gifts at whoa prices. With big brand bargains across apparel, home, jewellery, kids' toys and more. In-store and at tkmaxx.com. Gift different with TK Maxx.
Ho, ho, ho. Who's made a list this year?
I want a new phone, one with amazing cameras, ultra-wide lens, of course, live focus video. Well, it has to be 5G ready to stream all my films. Can it come with something awesome to listen to them through?
Darling, I think he was talking to the kids.
Get everything you want and more. Purchase a Samsung 5G ready device and claim a pair of wireless Galaxy Buds at no extra cost. Shop our 5G handsets in store or online at your local O2 store or o2.co.uk. 18 plus. Offer excludes Galaxy Fold 5G. Purchased by the 25th of the 12th 19. Claim from Samsung within 30 days. T's and C's apply.
The puck drops. 12 players face off to win. The suspense is pure torture, but you wouldn't miss this for the world. TuneIn brings you every minute of the NHL season. Listen live to hockey when it matters most on TuneIn.
Hey, NFL fan, can't watch the game? Can't be there? No biggie. With your TuneIn Premium membership, you already have an all-access pass to every team and every game in the league. Amazing, right?
Steps up, floats it towards, at the goal line, it's intercepted!
Listen live as the action unfolds or on demand when you can. Anytime, anywhere, all season long.
Right side, it is caught. It is in for the right side for the touchdown.
Search NFL today.
In case you didn't know, TuneIn lets you listen to the same radio stations you pick up on your home or car radio, except you can hear them from anywhere. If you want to find a station from somewhere else in the world, navigate to the By Location section under Browse. Keep exploring with TuneIn.
Right now, instead of hearing this, you could be listening to the music that keeps you moving with TuneIn Premium. Find today's biggest songs and all of your favorites commercial-free. Visit TuneIn.com/premium to upgrade.
Financial capital of the world, 24 hours a day at Bloomberg.com, on the Bloomberg Business app, and on Quick Take by Bloomberg. This is Bloomberg Radio. This is Bloomberg Markets with Lisa Abramowitz and Paul Sweeney.
Is there any bank right now in the U.S. that you think is a buy?
Do you think Chairman Powell has lost the market?
Jeff Bezos is no dope. What's the big ka-ching?
The big question, I think, for investors is free cash flow.
Breaking market news and insight from Bloomberg experts.
The U.S. tariffs actually hurt both China and the U.S.
Large strategics are looking to either buy or invest in innovation.
Soybeans and corn have been basically at or below the cost of production for about 4 or 5 years.
And what we see more bonds, more yield.
This is Bloomberg Markets with Lisa Abramowitz and Paul Sweeney on Bloomberg Radio.
Coming up, it's a sleepy market for the overall markets, but not so much for some specific corporate names. PSA Group and Fiat Chrysler agreeing to combine. We'll talk about that. Plus, coming up, we'll be talking about FedEx shares plunging after dismal expectations for profitability, at least according to some analysts. Right now, let's head over to Greg Jarrett for a Bloomberg Business Flash. Greg.
Lisa, communications and healthcare stocks are leading the major U.S. indices slightly higher. Global shares are mixed as investor optimism fades about last week's U.S.-China trade breakthrough, and all eyes turn to U.S. politics where President Donald Trump is on the cusp of being impeached. A Federal Reserve meeting last week also spurred some buying after investors saw signals from Chairman Jerome Powell that interest rates will stay low for a while. Peter Hooper, Deutsche Bank Securities Global Head of Economic Research, tells Bloomberg the Fed, he thinks, is headed in the right direction.
I think it's appropriate for the Fed to be trying to get growth up above trend, have policy be accommodative. The question is, are they accommodative enough? And our call, a bold call saying that the Fed will be flat this year and the next move will not be up. It's going to be down in 2021.
We check the markets every 15 minutes throughout the trading day here on Bloomberg Radio. S&P 500's up 0.1%, up 3. The Dow is up 0.1%, up 33. NASDAQ's up 0.1%, up 12. The 10-year is down 13.30 seconds with a yield of 1.92%. West Texas Intermediate crude is up 0.2% at 61.05 a barrel, while COMEX gold's a little changed to 14.8060 an ounce. The dollar yen, 109.59. The euro's $1.1126, and the British pound $1.3074. You might want to stock up on Banaka, Coast Soap, and Dr. Fresh toothpaste. High Ridge Brands, owner of some of the faded consumer names like the aforementioned and Zest Soap and VO5 shampoo, has filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy in Delaware, with plans to sell itself in a court-supervised process. That is a Bloomberg Business Flash. Bloomberg Markets continues now with Lisa and Paul.
Greg Jarrett, thank you so much. A sleepy morning, I think we will characterize it, of trading across the big major U.S. equity indices. Let's see if there's any action with the small and mid-cap stocks. We go to Bloomberg Stocks editor Dave Wilson. Dave, what are you looking at?
Nope, no action. All right, let's go home.
There you have it. I mean, the Russell 2000 index is down 0.1%. The S&P 500 is up 0.1%. So not a whole lot of movement. Though when you look at individual stocks, you see the Russell's biggest longs belongs to Acorn, whose ticker is AKRX. The generic drug maker has dropped about 17.5%. Acorn's lower for a third day after disclosing that it's considering a bankruptcy filing to resolve issues with its lenders. Solid Biosciences, ticker SLDB, has fallen 12.5%. The drug developer said U.S. regulators ordered a halt to research on a treatment for a childhood form of muscular dystrophy. And Hyster Yale Materials Handling, ticker HY, has slipped 7%. The maker of forklifts was cut to neutral from buy at Sidoti. And that's the only firm covering the company, according to the data compiled by Bloomberg. Now, one of the Russell's biggest gains belongs to Syros Pharmaceuticals, ticker SYRS. The drug developer has risen more than 18.5%. Syros agreed to work with Global Blood Therapeutics on treatments for blood diseases. And Steelcase, ticker SCS, is up 18%. The maker of office furniture posted fiscal third quarter earnings and sales that beat analyst average estimates in the Bloomberg survey.
Dave Wilson, Bloomberg Stocks Editor, thank you so much for being here with us. So it is perhaps not the most thrilling day ever in markets, but certainly interesting to see the biggest automotive deal getting done, or potentially promised to get done, since Daimler acquired Chrysler 2 decades ago, and that is the combination of PSA Group of Peugeot and Fiat Chrysler Automobiles. Joining us now, David Welch, Detroit Bureau Chief, joining us on the phone from there for Bloomberg News. David, can you just give us a sense of how, whether there was anything unexpected in the announcement that came this morning?
Not really. If we were looking for anything different, maybe that they might have adjusted terms that PSA was essentially paying to buy this thing, because there's so much litigation hanging over Fiat Chrysler, and maybe they wanted a little bit of a buffer for the kind of risk they'll be taking on. But I think both sides, PSA and FCA, decided that the big GM lawsuit has no merit, and they're going to trundle along and sew up their deal.
So it's what I find really interesting here is the social aspects here. You've got the Agnelli clan of Italy. You've got the Elkans of the Peugeots in France. How are these families, dynastic families, going to work together?
Well, there's always been this star chamber of automotive families, and the Fords even know all of these people. They kind of all know each other. Even the Porsches, who've got a piece of running Volkswagen these days. So I think they've always been pretty friendly. The Agnellis have been desperately trying for, I'd say, most of this decade to, instead of being a 30% owner of Fiat Chrysler, being what they really wanted, to be a 12% owner of GM FCA, and still have board seats and still be able to tell the public in Italy that they are a power broker with this auto company and they will ensure factories and industrial work in Italy. And the best way to do that is with a kind of merger. That's been their line all along, and it's what they wanted. A lot of people think they wanted out of the auto business. I think they like being in it. I think they like being one of those big European auto families or big world auto families. And let's not forget the Toyotas, too. There's another family.
Yeah.
But they kind of knew that going all the way back to even before they got Chrysler, that it was really a struggle for smaller automakers, even before you needed to invest in batteries for electric cars, even before you needed to write software for self-driving vehicles and all of that expensive stuff that has no real horizon for a payback, that you needed more scale, you needed a more global presence to really make it. And look, this was kind of everybody's last resort, but it's also a deal that kind of needs to happen for both of them.
How much does this stem from the ongoing pain in Europe's auto sector versus the global situation in the automobile manufacturing area?
So this is two things. So we have Carlos Tavares, who's the CEO of PSA, and he's been an excellent CEO wherever he's been. He ran Nissan North America in its heyday. He's done a very good job of turning around Peugeot and Opel, which they acquired from GM. But a lot of this has to do with the European market. It's been a lousy market even in good days because you simply don't get priced. You don't have huge SUVs and big pickup trucks that command big margins. Basically, in Europe, if you don't have luxury cars like BMW and Daimler, and you don't have a big commercial vehicle business, you kind of struggle to make a lot of money. And both of these companies are in that boat. For Tavares, first off, he loves the American market, so getting Chrysler with Jeep and Ram is really big for him. But this will be, even though they say this isn't going to cost jobs or plants, it's going to cost something, right? Somebody's ox is going to get gored over time, whether it's cutting engineering resources because they're going to build Fiats and Peugeots and Alfa Romeos using the same frames and engines. There will be job loss, there will be consolidation, there will be back office combinations that save everybody money. And it had to happen for the same reason Opel had to merge with somebody. Too much capacity in Europe, lousy pricing, and lousy profitability. Auto companies don't go away very easily because they're sort of national treasures, and governments don't like to let that happen, but they are sort of letting some consolidation happen so that everybody can maybe have a chance at making some decent money.
David, did you see the movie Ford versus Ferrari?
I have not seen it yet.
You have not seen it? This is the movie that was made for you.
You know, I was going to see it, and it was sold out.
Of course, Detroit.
He's coming up with excuses for why he didn't watch it. This is awesome. Keep going.
I thought I was going to see David Welch in a cameo role in the movie.
No.
All right, well, here you go. Here's your recommendation.
My agent was asleep at the switch.
All right, here's your recommendation. They go see Ford versus Ferrari. I think you'll like it. David Welch, Detroit bureau chief, all things auto. So I can't believe he hasn't seen Ford versus Ferrari.
Sorry, I'm logging out so I can go see it. Because you can assign him. That means I can go too. So basically, great.
So anyway, the reporting on this deal is interesting. Putting these two companies together, it'll be interesting to see, how they can compete on this global stage. You took two smaller companies, and now you've created the fourth largest automaker in the world. Interesting to see how they compete globally. Right now, let's head down to our 99.1 studios with Amy Morris for world and national headlines. Amy.
All right, thank you, Paul. The House of Representatives concluding its consideration of the rules of procedure that will govern 6 hours of debate on the articles of impeachment. We're going to go live now to Capitol Hill and Bloomberg's Irv Chapman. Irv.
Amy, the debate is on the rules, but members are addressing the charges against the president. Democrat James Clyburn.
We have a president who seems to believe he is a king or above the law.
Republican Debbie Lesko.
This is the most partisan impeachment in the history of the United States. I believe the Democrats are tearing this country apart.
Republicans will introduce their own alternative rules, but the Democratic majority will govern until the Senate takes its turn next month. Amy?
All right, thank you, Irv. The House passed two giant spending bills providing $1.4 trillion to fund the government through September and avoid a government shutdown. The bills are headed to the Senate, where they are expected to pass. That includes a
CNN article entitled "Fact Check: Trump's wild letter to Pelosi is filled with false and misleading claims."
That objection. 2020 election.
Madam Speaker, I yield 1 minute to the
$5 million for gun violence research. The president has to sign the bills into law before midnight on Friday night. And a judge has ruled that former National Security Agency contractor Edward Snowden violated secrecy agreements with the U.S. government that allow it to claim the proceeds from a memoir that he published. The judge ruled that Snowden is liable for breach of contract with the government because he published a permanent record without submitting it for a pre-publication review. We bring you global news 24 hours a day on air and on Quick Take by Bloomberg, powered by more than 2,700 journalists and analysts in more than 120 countries. I'm Amy Morris.
To see something far away, you can either get a powerful telescope or you can go there.
Talk about export numbers because they've been quite shocking. In Korea, we saw Singapore, Japan too.
Bloomberg Daybreak Asia.
How should investors be positioning?
When you take a look at the consumers in China, it remains challenging.
We go there.
To what extent is access to cheap credit part of the equation?
Tonight at 6 Eastern on Bloomberg Radio, the Bloomberg Business app, and BloombergRadio.com. Bloomberg, the world is listening.
Tom has been a teacher for over 40 years. One day, I think one of the students had asked the question and he didn't remember the answer. And I also noticed that he was letting his class out earlier than they were supposed to let out. I was really starting to worry.
Levi and I talked about how it would change our lives, but he was there beside me.
When something feels different, it could be Alzheimer's. Now is the time to talk. Visit alz.org/ourstories to learn more. A message from the Alzheimer's Association and the Ad Council.
What if you could keep the top economic experts in a conference room next to your office without having to feed them?
Do we need better optics? Do we need some substance?
Do CEOs care about ESG?
We have seen quite a lot of stimulus pumped into the system already.
It's the biggest warning yet about the financial risks of climate change.
Now there are more ways to hear us. Bloomberg Radio, the Bloomberg Business, Radio.com, and iHeartRadio apps, and at BloombergRadio.com. Bloomberg, the world is listening.
Okay, kids, Dad's gonna teach you how to dance. First, spread your feet apart. Then, pump your knee, nod your head, shake your hips, and bite your lip ever so slightly. Now, with one hand in the air, point at people with the other hand. I call that the rock star.
Dance like a dad. It's a great way to make a moment with your kids.
Now, make a face like it just smells something bad.
Visit fatherhood.gov, brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services and the Ad Council.
How's work? If you're not loving your job and you're getting those Sunday blues, now's the time to make a change. With a LinkedIn app, it's now easier to find and land the job meant for you. There are millions of jobs on offer, and the LinkedIn app helps you hear about them first. Research shows applying within the first 10 minutes increases your chances of hearing back by up to 4 times. Stay in the know and grow your career. Download the free LinkedIn app today.
Christmas. A time for celebrating, unwrapping, and unwinding. Capture every moment with an epic iPhone 6S with a 12-megapixel camera. Now only $12.99 a month from Tesco Mobile, saving you £72. It's just one of the ways we're celebrating 100 years of great value. Go in store or search Tesco Mobile. Tesco Mobile. Every little helps.
Saving £2 per month over 36 months was £14.99. 36-month credit and rolling monthly usage agreements required. Subject to status. Terms apply. See tescomobile.com/terms.
19p? What will that get you at Christmas? 5 minutes at a panto. A very unpopular Secret Santa. This week at Tesco, you can get sprouts, carrots, or parsnips from just 19p. Our festive 3. That should get you on the nice list. Tesco, delivering Christmas for 100 years. Selected stores excludes Express, ends 26th of December.
Introducing a new podcast, ESPN Daily. When you want to go beyond your feed, when you want to get inside the score, when you want to get behind the highlight, there's ESPN Daily. Go deeper into the stories of the moment. Get the exclusive access and insider perspective that only ESPN can give you. ESPN Daily, hosted by me, Mina Kimes. Listen now to ESPN Daily on TuneIn.
Cutting for the net, scores! On the goal line, Marchand scores!
Hockey fans, the 2019-20 NHL season is here.
And tucks it home!
And with this team, it's really fun to be a part of a team like that.
And you can hear the action live on TuneIn Premium. From regular season action to the All-Star Game and through the Stanley Cup in June. Hear the home and away call for every game, for every team live. At home or on the go, never miss a game with the NHL on TuneIn Premium.
Upgrade today.
He leaps and he surges in. Touchdown!
It is college football bowl season on TuneIn. This Friday at 2 p.m. Eastern Time, the bowl season kicks off from the beautiful Bahamas.
Back to throw, fires, run on the slant, caught, touchdown!
The Charlotte 49ers will be playing their first bowl game in school history. They'll be matched up against the Buffalo Bulls. Don't miss the first bowl game of the season. To listen to this and every bowl game, just search college football today.
What better way to celebrate the holidays than with a subscription to TuneIn Premium? With a bottomless library of the world's best audio, it's the gift that keeps on giving. Search Premium to upgrade today.
Far wing, elevates, triple bucket.
The roar of the crowd. The shot clock ticks down. Will the ball go in? The suspense is pure torture, but you wouldn't miss this for the world. And the replays just don't cut it.
The sideline, the man fleet for 3.
TuneIn Premium brings you every minute of the NBA season streaming live, so you can be there when it matters most. Hear it now, hear it live on TuneIn.
Fake in the lane, turnaround jumper from 8 feet is good on the
Search
right.
NBA Today to start listening.
Today, for only the third time in history, the House of Representatives votes on whether to impeach the sitting President of the United States of America.
The Judiciary Committee will come to order, a quorum being present. Having agreed yesterday to the amendment in the nature of a substitute on articles of impeachment against President Donald J. Trump, pending business is reporting the resolution favorably to the House.
Be there for the vote and instant analysis of what happens next, with live coverage from CNN, MSNBC, Fox News Talk, and more. Search Impeachment on TuneIn to be a part of history.
Markets, headlines, and breaking news 24 hours a day at Bloomberg.com, the Bloomberg Business app, and on Quick Take by Bloomberg. This is a Bloomberg Business Flash.
The S&P 500 moves up just a bit one day after reaching another record amid positive U.S. factory and housing data. We look at the numbers every 15 minutes throughout the trading day on Bloomberg Radio. The S&P's now up 0.2%, up 6. The Dow's up 0.2%, up 50, and the Nasdaq's up 0.25%, up 21. 10-year is down 13.30 seconds. The yield is 1.92%. West Texas Intermediate crude is little changed at $16.96 a barrel, while COMEX goes down 0.1% at $14.79.40 an ounce. The dollar yen, 109.60. The euro, $1.1120. And the British pound, $1.3070. In its latest effort to expand assets under management, Charles Schwab is offering a new robo-advice service aimed at retirees. The company says next month they will introduce online advice subscriptions for income-oriented investors, such as those nearing or in the midst of retirement. That is a Bloomberg Business Flash. I'm Greg Jarrett.
You're listening to Bloomberg Markets with Lisa Abramowitz and Paul Sweeney on Bloomberg Radio.
All right, let's take stock of 2019. The S&P up about 27%. Investment grade bonds up about 14%. Even municipal bonds had a stellar year, up over 7%. Let's talk about the municipal bond market. We welcome Jeff Berger, Senior Portfolio Manager for U.S. Municipal Bond Strategies at Mellon Investments, based in Boston, but joining us here in our Bloomberg Interactive Broker studio. So, Jeff, give us a sense about the muni performance in 2019. What drove it?
Thanks for having me. The performance in municipals really across the curve was stellar in 2019. And precisely to answer your question, what drove it? If you look at technical, fundamental, and valuation factors in our market, the one that really stands out are technical factors. Technical factors meaning really supply and demand in our market. And the demand really was unprecedented in 2019, particularly from U.S. retail investors. In fact, the highest on record since really records of municipal mutual fund inflows began in 1992. In no year have we seen more interest in this asset class than we saw in 2019.
So technical factors drove the gains. I'm wondering about the potential risks, because I tend to be a killjoy, but also because we were just talking to Amanda Albright from Bloomberg News about the fact that private colleges are going to be defaulting on their debt. Do you view this market as riskier, or do you view it as a place to just keep on plowing in because the technicals are going to continue being good?
Yes, no, that's a really on-point question in the sense that anytime you see a market with the type of stellar demand that you've seen in 2019, I think as prudent investment managers like we are at Mellon looking at what's driven this, you always have to ask the question, what could go wrong? What could change? And it's really a probabilistic type analysis. And so if you look at the what could change and what's the probability of that changing, I would say the probability of it is low, and what that change could be would be a reversal of all these flows. It's really, in my opinion, and the team's opinion, not so much a credit issue per se, is whether the retail demand for this asset class were to change for any number of reasons. We don't think those reasons are in place right now. Again, really looking at what's driven that retail inflow into our market, it has a lot to do with the Tax Cut and Job Act. It has to do with the fact that state and local taxes being capped at $10,000 as the maximum you could deduct from your federal tax liability.
Tell me about it.
Has driven a lot of people in.
How do you feel about that?
And so it's our opinion that demand and the reason for that demand is not likely to abate anytime soon.
So 2020 is an election year. How do municipal, and there's going to be a lot of talk about tax policy and lots of other things, how do municipals typically perform in an election year? Sure.
So when we think about elections and the impact on the municipal bond market, there are a number of factors that we consider. The first is, well, typically, come election season, a number of ballots are on the referendum or initiative process to say, do we want to issue more debt as a local community? So we're going to be paying attention to how much debt is on the ballot and how much of it gets approved this November. By and large, though, this market is well capable of absorbing more supply. So that, in terms of hierarchy, is not the number one concern. What we also are paying attention to are the implications from tax policy, whether it's the reelection of the president or a Democrat coming into power. Under both scenarios, we're of the mindset currently that the tax policy, you've seen Donald Trump's tax policy with the SALT cap, and most of the Democrats are proposing some tax policy change, meaning tax increase. Both of those generally are good for the market. And the final piece we're paying attention to is whether there's an increased probability of a federal infrastructure bill post-election. There's arguments
really?
that...
You really think there's any chance of that?
Post-election.
2020. We're talking 2020? We're talking next year? We're going to be doing infrastructure next year?
Well, we certainly desperately need it. So maybe it's aspirational in the sense that
aspirational infrastructure bill. Yes, go on.
How about the Gateway Tunnel right across the
Literally, this is like you love muni bond segments because you just have your pet project.
Hey, I just flew through LaGuardia this morning, and that's great. What's going on there?
LaGuardia, is it though?
It is.
What's wrong with the cabs? It's ridiculous.
So I took Uber, so I did not have to deal with it. I'm learning. So we evolve as consumers, and I've learned that the taxi line can be a little long.
All right. One question, just quickly to wrap it up here. What about foreign investment? We've seen an increase there. What are you expecting on that front?
Absolutely. I think foreign investors is probably one of the most underreported stories in our market, in the sense that what you're seeing across the globe is a demand for this asset class driven by just low sovereign yields across the world. With a third of the world at sub-zero rates, you're seeing new buyers into this asset class. And what gets us most excited is global investors really for the first time are recognizing the underappreciation, the undervalue of this market. The opportunities of municipals are being recognized across the globe, and you're seeing that now with tremendous flow from both Europe and Asia.
All right. And before we let you go, Jeff, what's your number one infrastructure pet project that you would push for?
What I would push for? Oh, gosh. So I'm a Boston person, so I'm going to root.
You already had the big dig.
Yeah, but, I'm also green. And so I think let's move away from the big dig and let's really work on public transportation. I think our the MBTA in Boston could be improved.
Jeff Berger, who is green. Jeff Berger, a senior portfolio manager for U.S. municipal bond strategies at Mellon Investments based in Boston. Thank you so much for being here. Let's now head to Washington, D.C. We've got Amy Morris with an update on the impeachment hearings.
Thank you, Lisa. The debate is ongoing in the House of Representatives. Now, the rules state each side gets 3 hours to make its case. That would be 6 hours total. The president had weighed in already on Twitter saying that House Speaker Nancy Pelosi is going to go down in history as the worst speaker of the House in history. Okay, so here's what's happening now. The lawmakers are concluding the consideration of the rules procedure. That will govern the 6 hours of debate on the articles of impeachment. Now, Republicans are introducing their own alternative rules, which means that 6 hour clock hasn't started yet. It is all but certain that the president will be impeached, but the Senate is not likely to convict and remove him from office. That debate doesn't begin until after the new year. Of course, we're going to keep watching it for you, plus a live report from Capitol Hill coming up in about 15 minutes. Bloomberg Terminal customers, watch this on the House floor at Live Go. I'm Amy Morris. This is Bloomberg.
This is a Bloomberg Market Minute. Looking to slash the cost of prescription drugs, the Trump administration is moving forward on a plan to import a number of medications from Canada and other countries as long as they meet FDA standards. On Wall Street, modest gains today, putting the major averages on track to close at fresh all-time highs. The S&P 500 riding a 5-day winning streak. Shares of FedEx, though, tumbling as much as 10% after Amazon told its third-party vendors the service is too slow, and FedEx lowered its profit forecast for the current quarter and for all of next year. But shares of Fiat Chrysler are higher after announcing it's merging with France's PSA Peugeot, creating the world's fourth-largest automaker. High Ridge Brands, the maker of Zest soap and Alberto VO5 shampoo, has filed for bankruptcy. Too much competition on store shelves. And Uber today will announce it's offering corporate clients short-term workers to provide cooking, cleaning, laundry, event planning, and other services. Tom Busby, Bloomberg Radio.
Imagine being fired because of who you love. Imagine being denied medical treatment because of who you marry. Imagine being evicted because of who you are. Millions of Americans don't have to imagine this. They have to live it. Because in 31 states, it's legal to discriminate against LGBT people. Get the facts at beyondido.org. Brought to you by the Gill Foundation and the Ad Council.
The Bloomberg Business of Sports podcast.
How did the Yankees become this mega valuable team?
Where the money is flowing inside sports around the globe.
From the marketing perspective, where are the dollars spent?
From union heads to team owners, Scott Soshnick and Michael Barr speak to the names that power this multi-billion-dollar industry.
Boston Red Sox CEO Sam Kennedy.
National Hockey League Commissioner Gary Bettman.
Bloomberg Business of Sports. Listen today on Bloomberg.com, the Bloomberg Business app, or subscribe on Apple Podcasts.
You know it's out there somewhere, but you just keep missing out. I'm talking about your dream job. Now it's easier to find and land your next role with the LinkedIn app. Build connections, keep in touch, and be the first to hear about new jobs. LinkedIn has more openings than applicants. And sometimes all it takes is one LinkedIn connection to land the job that's right for you. Don't miss out. Get your next big break and find the job meant for you. Download the free LinkedIn app today.
I used to be a bit of a rubbish sleeper. I'd toss and turn all night. And somehow I could never find the comfy bit of the mattress. It was a proper nightmare. That's what brought me here. Testing mattresses in the Which Test Lab. We use a custom-made barrel rolling machine to simulate a decade's worth of use. And the mattresses that perform best are the only ones we recommend for your bedroom.
Which tests harder so you can buy smarter. Visit which.co.uk.
Millions of people are missing out by having a current account that doesn't pay them any interest on their hard-earned money. TSB offers interest to all their Plus account customers for no monthly fee. Plus, you can stop your friends and family missing out by recommending the Plus account to them. And when they switch, you'll both earn £75. Search online or visit your local branch. Terms and conditions apply.
Ho, ho, ho. Who's made a list this year?
I want a new phone, one with amazing cameras, ultra-wide lens, of course, live focus video. Well, it has to be 5G ready to stream all my films. Can it come with something awesome to listen to them through?
Darling, I think he was talking to the kids.
Get everything you want and more. Purchase a Samsung 5G ready device and claim a pair of silver wireless Galaxy Buds at no extra cost. Shop our 5G handsets in store or online at your local O2 store or o2.co.uk. 18 plus. Offer excludes Galaxy Fold 5G. Purchased by the 25th of the 12/19. Claim from Samsung within 30 days. T's and C's apply.
Back to throw, fires right on the slant. Caught, touchdown. He leaps and he surges in, touchdown.
This Saturday at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time, the lights shine bright on the Las Vegas Bowl. Washington Huskies head coach Chris Peterson will coach his final game before retiring as he takes on his former school, the Boise State Broncos.
Down to the 5, he leaps for the end zone, and he is in.
To listen to this and every bowl game, just search college football today.
The NBA is on TuneIn Premium. Each week, TuneIn picks an NBA game you just can't miss. 4 of the league's top teams are in action as the Lakers take on the Bucks at 8 p.m. Eastern, followed by the Rockets taking on the Clippers at 10:30 p.m. Eastern.
11-2.
This Thursday, the Lakers are at the Bucks at 8 p.m. Eastern, and the Rockets are at the Clippers 10:30 p.m. Eastern. Search NBA on TuneIn to follow your favorite NBA team today.
In the stock market and in life, everything can change from 1 minute to the next. Be the first to hear the latest money news and market trends with CNBC on TuneIn. Wherever your day takes you, listen to CNBC's full slate of programming, including shows like Fast Money, Squawk Box, and Mad Money with Jim Cramer. And when the next big business story breaks, CNBC lets you know with live updates and commentary. At the office, at home, or on the go. Search CNBC on TuneIn to listen.
Broadcasting live from the Bloomberg Interactive Brokers Studio in New York. Bloomberg 1130 to Washington, D.C. Bloomberg 99.1 to Boston. Bloomberg 106.1 to San Francisco. Bloomberg 960 to the country. Sirius XM Channel 119. And around the globe, the Bloomberg Business app and BloombergRadio.com. This is Bloomberg Markets.
Coming up, we're going to take a look at FedEx. The stock is down 10% today on a weak outlook. We'll dig deep into those numbers. Plus, we're going to talk to Best Friedman CEO Brown Harris Stevens, get a sense of what's going on in the New York City real estate market. But first, let's go to Greg Jarrett of Bloomberg News for a Bloomberg Business Flash. Greg.
Well, stocks are up a little more than they were a few minutes ago, Paul. Investors are digesting a lot of corporate news. An impeachment vote loomed over trade and trade worries retreated. Treasuries are down, and the British pound is weaker. Stephen Macklow-Smith, J.P. Morgan International Equity Group market strategist, tells Bloomberg risk, success, or failure in 2020, in his opinion, is pretty much trade-related.
Trade point of view, the mood music there is troubled. And I think that there was a headline just in the last 2 days where Robert Lighthizer has talked about the likelihood that President Trump, having come to a kind of a deal with China, will start to turn his attention towards the European Union. So I don't see the trade tensions actually going away anytime soon.
We check the numbers every 15 minutes throughout the trading day here on Bloomberg Radio. S&P 500 is up 0.2% up 5. The Dow is up 0.1% up 28. The NASDAQ is up 0.25% of 22. The 10-year is down 14/32 with a yield of 1.93%. West Texas Intermediate crude is little changed out, $60.95 a barrel, while COMEX gold is down 0.1% of 14.79.10 an ounce. The dollar yen, 109.61. The euro, $1.1120. And the British pound, $1.30.74. The busiest, cheapest bar in Qatar this week is a pop-up container in the middle of a co-opted golf course. The busiest because it was built specifically for soccer fans visiting the mostly dry country. The cheapest because it was specially exempt from the so-called Qatari sin tax. Beers only cost $7 instead of the usual $15, and no small discount. Qatar has been asking questions about the price and availability because beer and football go together. The 2022 World Cup is coming up, hosted by them. That's a Bloomberg Business Flash. I'm Greg Jarrett.
You're listening to Bloomberg Markets with Lisa Abramowitz and Paul Sweeney on Bloomberg Radio.
Bloomberg Markets is brought to you by Commonwealth Financial Network. For the sixth straight time, J.D. Power ranks Commonwealth #1 in independent advisor satisfaction among financial investment firms. Visit Commonwealth.com to learn more. While FedEx shares not having a particularly boring day, but not having a good day by any means, shares down more than 10% after giving guidance that was absolutely slaughtered by Wall Street analysts. Joining us now to talk about what actually went wrong here is Satish Jindal. He's president of SJ Consulting. Satish, I just want to start with the sort of elephant in the room. How much does this stem from Amazon.com telling some of its third-party businesses and clients that they cannot ship with FedEx?
Practically none. How's that?
Okay, great. I'm glad that we've established that. So what was the main driver here?
The main drivers, there are two structural issues taking place. And in both the express business, domestically in the U.S., and in the ground business, which are the two major drivers of revenue and profitability for the company. And in the express business, the market has been declining practically. It's flat over the last 14 years because not too many people are shipping packages across the country. They don't need express, so they've got, in my view, too many aircrafts. They could bring more of them down. And as a reference, UPS handles as many parcels in express network as FedEx, while doing it with fewer aircraft because they have an integrated network. And during the same last 15 years, while express volume has been practically flat, 1% increase, ground has increased 250%, and yet FedEx has not adjusted structurally to handling it in that manner.
Why are they not, making that change? When I think of, moving packages around, I think of FedEx. I mean, they kind of created this whole industry, this whole business. What are they missing here?
Well, you're correct. They created the express industry, and absolutely, Fred Smith is a legend in our industry, but that was for the express service that started 40 years ago. The parcel and the industry for express documents also is absolutely 180 degrees turned around over these years. Now everything is moving in short distance and in ground, and then it is not business to business. The business to consumer is growing at 2-3 times the rate of business to business, and they fail to recognize the changes driven by e-commerce that was resulting in lower yield due to lighter weight and shorter zones, and they don't comment about paying attention to it till March of 2019.
Satish, you make a really important point, which is perhaps they should be reducing assets and reducing investment rather than increasing it. Am I reading that correctly? Because it comes at a time of them increasing investment across a whole host of different areas.
You are absolutely spot on. You should be a financial analyst because they talk about having they talk about having a capex of $5.9 billion in this fiscal year, next fiscal year, and the one after that. And they're buying a lot of aircraft. They should be shrinking their capex. They should not be buying new aircrafts. Existing aircrafts don't have to be retired because they don't need so many aircrafts, and they could retire them and put it on the ground and do it at a lower cost and invest in the ground network. And here's another thing that has been overlooked. The ground business quarter over quarter compared to last year, increased revenue by $173 million. But the purchase transportation cost went up by $219. Salary and wages went up by $80. So they went up by $300 million in cost to get extra $170 million in revenue. That is a structural issue that will get corrected, but it won't happen in one quarter. It will be at least 3 quarters to a year before they get that. But they needed to do it.
Satish, real quickly, was it a good move to kind of sever business with Amazon? It just seems odd to me.
My view is that they should have been able to make money handling that business, and if they chose not to, it should have never become an element to be shared in the public. It should have never gotten any ink in the media, and now they did that. So Amazon did what they did last couple days, and it will be back and forth, and that isn't healthy for either party.
Satish Jindal, thank you so much for joining us. Satish Jindal is the president of SJ Consulting, joining us here to talk about FedEx. Again, the stock down about 10% on weaker than expected guidance going forward, citing weaker global trade and also probably some of the issues with Amazon.com walking away from that business.
And there's a larger question underpinning these results, which is how much is this management lack of foresight or bad forecasting
skills? That's what it sounds like.
Okay, but how much does that translate into bad business planning? Because you need to have forecasts in order to plan for business. So it's not necessarily completely separate.
Yeah, very, very unusual, and shares are reflecting it right now. Right now, let's head down to our 99.1 studios in Washington, D.C. to Amy Mars for World and National Headlines. Amy.
All right, thank you, Paul. The House of Representatives is taking a vote on the rules of procedure. This is going to govern 6 hours of debate that is still to come before the final votes on each of the 2 articles of impeachment. Bloomberg's Irv Chapman comes to us live now from Capitol Hill. Irv.
Amy, before the vote, members of both parties gave their opposing views on whether impeachment is warranted. Democrat Catherine Clark.
And evidence.
Republican Michael Burgess. Just a second here.
He tried to extort a foreign government into investigating a political rival, and he has unlawfully withheld witnesses and evidence.
Republican Michael Burgess.
A request for investigation as to how American foreign aid will be spent does not equal soliciting election interference.
The Democrats have the votes to set the rules, including the 6 hours of debate. Republicans would have liked 12, and the voting is still going on, but we know how it's going to come out on the rules. Amy?
All right, thank you, Irvin. The House, meanwhile, did pass that $1.4 trillion government spending package, which provides a fraction of the funds for President Trump's border wall. It also gives Democrats spending increases for domestic programs, and it funds a record Pentagon budget. It includes a repeal of Obama-era taxes on high-cost health plans. It has help for retired coal miners and an increase to 21 in the nationwide legal age to buy tobacco products. The Senate is expected to pass it. The president has to sign it before Friday at midnight. Global news 24 hours a day on air and on Quick Take by Bloomberg, powered by more than 2,700 journalists and analysts in more than 120 countries.
Business is constantly evolving. Is your financial printer evolving to keep ahead of the curve? At Command Financial, we are redefining financial printing by providing industry-leading expertise, leveraging technology, and honing processes and best practices. Every day, Command helps SEC registrants, as well as members of their working groups, including securities attorneys and investment bankers, prepare, file, and disseminate regulatory and disclosure documents, such as registration statements, M&A documents, and mutual fund prospectuses and reports. Command provides a full range of services to help you effectively complete your deal, meet your disclosure requirements, and achieve your shareholder communications objectives. Visit our website at commandfinancial.com and learn how we're evolving, not only with the times, but also with your business requirements. Command Financial, redefining financial printing.
Imagine being denied an apartment because of your religion, or your race, or because you have children, or a disability.
It's so wrong.
Yes, but who has the power to stop this?
You do. Each of us has the power. The law is on your side. It's illegal for landlords to discriminate because of race, color, religion, sex, national origin, disability, or familial status. If you suspect that you have experienced housing discrimination, file a complaint with HUD immediately so we can investigate it. Fair housing is your right.
Use it.
To learn more, visit HUD.gov/fairhousing. That's HUD.gov/fairhousing. Or call 1-800-669-9777. 1-800-669-9777. A public service message from HUD in partnership with the National Fair Housing Alliance.
You know it's out there somewhere, but you just keep missing out. I'm talking about your dream job. Now it's easier to find and land your next role with the LinkedIn app. Build connections, keep in touch, and be the first to hear about new jobs. LinkedIn has more openings than applicants. And sometimes all it takes is one LinkedIn connection to land the job that's right for you. Don't miss out. Get your next big break and find the job meant for you. Download the free LinkedIn app today.
So it's already December 18th. Well, at Boots, this Christmas, there's better than half price on selected gifts. Save money on gifts like number 7, Best Face Forward was £80, now only £39, and other selected products. Get on it today at the What to Buy Your Nearest without it being the dearest boutique at your nearest Boots in London White City Shopping Centre. So gift like you get them before it ends 24th of December at selected stores and boots.com.
Cutting for the net, scores! On the goal line, Marchand scores!
Hockey fans, the 2019-20 NHL season is here.
And tucks it home!
And with this team, it's really fun to be a part of a team like that.
And you can hear the action live on TuneIn Premium. From regular season action to the All-Star Game and through the Stanley Cup in June. Hear the home and away call for every game, for every team live. At home or on the go, never miss a game with the NHL on TuneIn Premium.
Upgrade today.
This is not a commercial. This is a reminder. With TuneIn Premium, you could be listening to more music commercial-free. Get over 45 commercial-free music stations. Visit tunein.com/premium to upgrade.
Far wing, elevates, triple bucket.
The roar of the crowd. The shot clock ticks down. Will the ball go in? The suspense is pure torture, but you wouldn't miss this for the world. And the replays just don't cut
to
it.
The sideline, the man fleet for 3.
TuneIn Premium brings you every minute of the NBA season streaming live, so you can be there when it matters most. Hear it now, hear it live on TuneIn.
Fake in the lane, turnaround jumper from 8 feet is good on the
Search
right.
NBA today to start listening.
Hey, NFL fan, can't watch the game? Can't be there? No biggie. With your TuneIn Premium membership, you already have an all-access pass to every team and every game in the league. Amazing, right?
Steps up, floats it towards, at the goal line, it's intercepted!
Listen live as the action unfolds or on demand when you can. Anytime, anywhere, all season long.
Right side, it is caught, it is in for the right side for the touchdown to Keenan.
Search NFL today.
Want to hear about the latest and greatest things to listen to on TuneIn? For reminders of the biggest live sports games, debates, and breaking news stories, follow @TuneIn on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram to stay connected with the audio that matters to you.
In case you didn't know, TuneIn lets you listen to the same radio stations you pick up on your home or car radio, except you can hear them from anywhere. If you want to find a station from somewhere else in the world, navigate to the By Location section under Browse. Keep exploring with TuneIn.
Introducing a new podcast, ESPN Daily. When you want to go beyond your feed, when you want to get inside the score, when you want to get behind the highlight, there's ESPN Daily. Go deeper into the stories of the moment. Get the exclusive access and insider perspective that only ESPN can give you. ESPN Daily, hosted by me, Mina Kimes. Listen and favorite ESPN Daily on TuneIn.
Hey, NFL fan, can't watch the game? Can't be there? No biggie. With your TuneIn Premium membership, you already have an all-access pass to every team and every game in the league. Amazing, right?
Steps up, floats it towards, at the goal line, it's intercepted!
Listen live as the action unfolds or on demand when you can. Anytime, anywhere, all season long.
Right side, it is caught, it is in for the right side for the touchdown to Keenan.
Search NFL today.
and breaking news 24 hours a day at Bloomberg.com, the Bloomberg Business app, and on Quick Take by Bloomberg. This is a Bloomberg Business Flash.
Stocks fluctuate, small gains, small losses. The S&P is creeping higher right now, a day after reaching another record amid positive U.S. factory and housing data. Tech shares lead that benchmark higher, while FedEx is sliding following a cut to its forecast. We look at the numbers every 15 minutes throughout the trading day on Bloomberg Radio. S&P 500 is up 0.1%, up 3. The Dow's little changed. NASDAQ is up 0.25%, up 22. The 10-year's down 12/30 seconds, the yield 1.92%. West Texas Intermediate crude is currently little changed at $60.91 a barrel, while COMEX gold is little changed at $14.79.70 an ounce. The dollar yen 109.60. The euro, $1.1114, and the British pound, $1.3075. Apple, Alphabet's Google, and Amazon, three of the biggest smart home and voice assistant providers, are joining forces to make internet-connected homes easier to set up and safer to use. The rivals announced today they're working with the Zigbee Alliance Foundation that promotes standards for the Internet of Things and its members, including Samsung, Somfy, and IKEA, on a new standard that will ensure their products will work with each other. Siri and Alexa getting along. Isn't that nice? That's a Bloomberg Business Flash. I'm Greg Jarrett.
This is Bloomberg Markets with Lisa Abramowitz and Paul Sweeney on Bloomberg Radio.
Bloomberg Markets is brought to you by Adapar. Adapar's portfolio reporting and insights platform is trusted by thousands of wealth advisors from family offices, RIAs, and large financial institutions. Learn more at addepar.com. Let's talk a little New York City real estate. Is it a time to buy or a time to sell? We welcome Bess Friedman. She is our resident expert. She's CEO of Brown Howard Stevens. She joins us here in our Bloomberg Interactive Broker studio. Bess, thanks so much for joining us. We were just talking off air about some of the legislation up in Albany that is likely to impact the New York City market. Tell us a couple things that are up there, because I know the New York City real estate market is kind of unsettled now, I guess I would characterize it.
Good morning, everyone. I think that right now there are a bunch of bills pending in Albany. I think there's 7, but one is this pied-à-terre tax, which we think would have a detrimental effect on the real estate industry. And what they're saying is that it would generate roughly $600 to $650 million of revenue, but we really doubt that. We think it'll be something more like $300 million or less.
What is it, by the way?
So people who are coming here, don't live here full time, pied-à-terre, this is their second, third, or fourth home. They don't spend a lot of time here. And what it would be an annual tax that they would be, the numbers of what that would be, I don't know, but it could be millions of dollars for some people. Like the 220 Central Park South apartment that Ken Griffin bought, we estimate that it would be roughly $9 million a year for him if they impose this pied-à-terre tax. Yes, I see her eyes are bulging out.
Yes. I'm just, that's interesting. So you say that they say it's going to generate all this revenue. You say that's not true.
Well, we have, the owner of my company, Will Zeckendorf, and our chief economist, Gregory Heim, have studied this intensely. They've worked with a lot of brilliant people to understand what this is about. And they think it will generate half the money, and they have studies to show that. But also they think it will impact new development. People aren't going to build anymore. Also, pied-à-terre homeowners spend roughly $1 billion a year on resources, things they spend, and that's millions of dollars in taxes. That's thousands of jobs. So it will have such a huge impact on our industry. We think that it will be catastrophic. So we're really working to fight this in particular bill. And there's many others that I'm not super fluent with, but we're looking at all of that, and we're going to be very vocal in 2020.
All right. So there are the bills that are facing New York City real estate developers that are causing some anxiety. Also, of course, I know that you, Paul Sweeney, are incredibly familiar with the salt tax.
Yes.
But I'm wondering, just generally, can you give us a state of play for what 2020 will look like?
I think 2020 is going to be, I call it an opportunity market. I think it will be...
That's a nice way to spin it.
Yes. Hello. I mean, I do think it will be an opportunity market because buyers' rates are still low. The economy is stable. It is an election year, which is always stressful and creates uncertainty for people. But there's incredible opportunity for people who want to buy in New York City. It's not, if you're a seller, it can be a little bit more challenging. But if you're selling now, it's a great time to buy because if you lose money when you sell, at least you pick it up when you buy. So, and there's a lot of supply right now, a lot to choose from, and you can negotiate. So
what is your advice to sellers in this market? Again, as you mentioned, a lot of uncertainty in the marketplace. What's your advice to a real, qualified seller?
They have to be priced right. This is not a time for aspirational pricing. It will not work. It's so price sensitive and value driven in our environment that you need to be priced right. And if you are priced right, you will, people will come in and see your property. They will put offers in. But if they think you're really ridiculous and on another planet, buyers are not even putting offers in. Even if agents are encouraging them to, they will not, because they're almost like insulted that you put that high price on your apartment or your home, whatever.
One question, when we talk about the real estate market, we don't give enough attention to the transformation that technology is making as far as valuations go. How has that affected what you do?
What do you mean is
like the sort of algorithms that sort of price in real time what other things are selling for and give a real value on things that sort of take the place of appraisers in some capacities?
I think that's really hard to do in New York City. I can't speak to, I think other places that are just, white box houses, it's a little easier. Remember, we are a nuanced market. The Upper East Side, downtown, very different. Co-ops were, majority of cooperatives. And so two buildings can be right next to each other and have a very different valuation of the apartments, floor plans. So we really, New York is a very different market in that way, and that helps us because you really need the knowledge of a real estate professional, in my opinion.
As we look down 57th Street here from the Bloomberg headquarters at 58th and Lex, we see just in the last 5-7 years these monster skyscrapers just reaching to the sky all the way down 57th Street. That just screams, to me at least, and I'm not a real estate person, A, top of the market, B, just huge inventory. How's some of that inventory moving in the city?
There have been some sales. I think they've been slow. It's been very sluggish, and I think it's going to be a real challenge for some of those developers to get that moving. They're probably going to have to adjust some of the prices. But some projects like a 432 Park or a 520 Park, which is in that zone, have done relatively well. But now there's a lot of product that is still just looming. And I think it's going to be a slow and steady climb to get those done.
Just in general, given the fact that you do have a lot of experience with New York City, obviously the market, but also in Miami, I'm wondering what we can infer about where we are in the economic cycle based on the wealthiest individuals and what they're buying.
We're seeing a lot of people who are leaving New York and going to Florida. We've seen, I think almost record numbers in 2019. So, but we are seeing, we're having big sales also in Palm Beach. People are buying these really incredible homes on the water. In Miami, people are also spending money. And in New York City, we're doing luxury sales. So there is still the luxury market. That's discretionary, and people are still, purchasing those homes.
It's an opportunity market.
Yes. You're going to copy my spin.
But I like it. Bess Friedman, thank you so much.
Thank you both. Have a wonderful holiday.
Thank you too. Bess Friedman is Chief Executive Officer for Brown Harris Stevens in New York, joining us here in our Interactive Broker studios. Right now, let's head down to our 99.1 studios in Washington, D.C. Amy Morris there with an update on the impeachment hearings.
All right, thank you, Lisa. The House of Representatives has just taken a vote seconds ago on the rules of procedure governing 6 hours of debate ahead before the final votes on each of the two articles of impeachment. Now, before they took this vote, members of both parties gave opposing views on whether impeachment is even warranted. Democrats do have the vote to set the rules, including the 6 hours of debate, but Republicans wanted 12 hours of debate. Republicans also wanted to change the rule allowing members to record their vote electronically. They would rather each member stand and announce his or her vote before the television cameras. That didn't get very far. The bottom line of all of this is that they have 6 hours of debate to go. That clock has not even started yet. We're going to have much more about this on Bloomberg Balance of Power with David Weston. And Bloomberg Terminal customers, of course, can watch all of this debate on the House floor at Live Go. Once again, they have just finished the vote on the rules of procedure that is passed. The clock will start ticking shortly on the 6 hours of debate ahead. This is Bloomberg.
In addition to Bloomberg Radio, you can catch the latest news and biggest newsmakers on Bloomberg Television. Look for us on DirecTV Channel 353 or check your local listings.
How's work? If you're not loving your job and you're getting those Sunday blues, now's the time to make a change. With a LinkedIn app, it's now easier to find and land the job meant for you. There are millions of jobs on offer, and the LinkedIn app helps you hear about them first. Research shows applying within the first 10 minutes increases your chances of hearing back by up to 4 times. Stay in the know and grow your career. Download the free LinkedIn app today.
Hey, NFL fan, can't watch the game? Can't be there? No biggie. With your TuneIn Premium membership, you already have an all-access pass to every team and every game in the league. Amazing, right?
Steps up, floats it towards, at the goal line, it's intercepted!
Listen live as the action unfolds or on demand when you can. Anytime, anywhere, all season long.
Right side, it is caught. It is in for the right side for the touchdown.
Search NFL today.
When you're not listening to your team, take it to the end zone, the rim, or the net. Keep up with the biggest moments in sports by following TuneIn on social media.
Block, Cook into the end zone for the touchdown.
From reminders of the live top games to tips of the best sports stations and podcasts.
Welcome to Undisputed. We are live from Los Angeles. I'm Jenny Taft here with Skip
Follow
Bayless.
at TuneIn on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram to get the most out of TuneIn.
Cutting for the net, scores! On the goal line, Marshawn scores!
Hockey fans, the 2019-20 NHL season is here.
And tucks it home!
And with this team, it's really fun to be a part of a team like that.
You can hear the action live on TuneIn Premium, from regular season action to the All-Star Game and through the Stanley Cup in June. Hear the home and away call for every game, for every team live. At home or on the go, never miss a game with the NHL on TuneIn Premium.
Upgrade today.
Far wing, elevates, triple bucket.
The war of the crowd. The shot clock ticks down. Will the ball go in? The suspense is pure torture, but you wouldn't miss this for the world. And the replays just don't cut
The
it.
sideline, the Van Fleet for three.
TuneIn Premium brings you every minute of the NBA season streaming live, so you can be there when it matters most. Hear it now, hear it live on TuneIn.
Fake in the lane, turnaround jumper from 8 feet is good on the
Search
right block.
NBA Today to start listening.
The world, 24 hours a day at Bloomberg.com, on the Bloomberg Business app, and on Quick Take by Bloomberg. This is Bloomberg Radio.
From Bloomberg World Headquarters in New York to our TV and radio audiences worldwide, I'm David Weston. Welcome now to Balance of Power, where the world of politics meets the world of business. On the brief today, Kevin Cirilli from the White House on the House moving forward to impeach the president. Brooke Sutherland on FedEx and how low it can go. And from London, Anuja Devnath on the pound's reaction to news on Brexit, and also the Bank of England, which is going to decide something tomorrow. So let's start out with Kevin Cirilli. It's a big day on Capitol Hill. Where are we at this point, Kevin?
Right now, the House is going through the conversation that they're having on the floor of the House of Representatives ahead of the historic third impeachment vote, where President Trump likely going to be impeached. A handful of Democrats expect to actually break from the party and vote with Republicans against impeachment. From there, a quick trial in the Senate. Leader McConnell, the Republican in the Senate, saying that he is anticipating a quick trial. But here at the White House, it's really business as usual. We're anticipating that vote, David, to happen anytime between 5 p.m. New York time and 8 p.m. New York time. President Trump, for his part, is headed to Battle Creek, Michigan later this evening, where he will host a campaign rally, an opportunity for the president to give his critique and his assessment of that impeachment vote.
Yeah, he already gave a critique yesterday in a letter to Nancy Pelosi, the Speaker of the House. What's the reaction up on Capitol Hill to the president? It's really going after the Speaker pretty strongly.
You know, to be candid with you, it's business as usual. I was up on Capitol Hill all morning talking with sources and aides and members of both parties, and really both camps are dug in. I had one senior aide to a prominent Republican senator put it this way: we started this process with the expectation that Speaker Pelosi would impeach the president by the end of the year and that he would be acquitted in the Senate. And so far, that's still where we are, David.
Okay, thanks so much to Kevin Cirilli, reporting from the White House. And now we're going to turn to Brooke Sutherland. She's here to talk about FedEx. So last June, I think you said they fell out of a basement window. It's even worse now.
It has not gotten any better from here. It's just been a string of disappointments for FedEx for almost 2 years at this point, and it's the same old story. And I think what's head-scratching for investors is how have they not figured it out at this point? So they're still grappling with rising costs as they continue to deal with this deluge of e-commerce shipments. You have had the trade war weighing on the industrial economy and some of their more business-to-business shipments, which tend to be more profitable. But then it's also just execution. FedEx should have had a better handle on some these issues, and they just did not.
Well, that's one of my questions is how much of it is execution, how much of it is ability to forecast? Are they just not getting the numbers right, or do they really have execution problems? Because I think UPS is actually up on the year, and the S&P certainly is up on the year.
UPS has been doing a lot better, and so both companies have spent billions of dollars trying to renovate their networks and get them to the point where they can profitably handle these e-commerce shipments. Now, UPS is starting to see a return from that in the form of rising margins. FedEx is just not a huge margin miss this quarter in its ground division specifically, and it blamed that on the timing element, the fact that there's a shorter distance between Christmas and Thanksgiving this year. But again, to your point, they knew that. The calendar has not moved since they gave their last forecast, and to miss so significantly, I think does raise us questions about their ability to get a handle on what's happening.
And then Amazon sort of gave them a little kick on the way. I don't know how material it was, but they have some new management in, right? They've had some senior ranks. Is there a new plan about what they're going to do at FedEx?
So it's been really interesting because UPS has hired a lot of new management, and they have gone outside of the company. They brought in executives from Walmart, from PepsiCo, from a lot of different places. FedEx has always promoted internally, and it continues to do that. And so you see the company being run by longtime veterans. And I do think it's worth asking if maybe some fresh eyes might help the company, bringing somebody in from the outside and asking some different questions.
That's a fascinating story of a real legendary company for the United States. Okay, thanks so much to Brooke Sullivan reporting on FedEx. And now we're going over to London and Anuja Devnath and talk about the pound and what the pound's done. It was really doing terribly well when Boris Johnson got elected, and then we got the news of this hard Brexit, not doing so well now.
Yeah, exactly, David. I mean, we did have the pound, on the day of the elections with Boris Johnson's, majority. It got to one of its highest levels since early 2018, and then since then it's just been quite a move. It's fallen 3% since then. Right now, it probably saw the biggest sell-off in over a year this week. And it mainly, again, boils down to this. Yes, he's got the majority, but what is he going to do with it? Is he actually going to extend the transition deal now that he said he probably won't? It again brings back the risk of a hard Brexit by the end of 2020. So, yeah, the pound's having a bit of a wobble.
And what are we expecting out of the Bank of England? I mean, it's a little hard for Mark Carney. He really is a lame duck at this point. They're talking about possible replacements. How does the Bank of England respond to all of this?
Exactly. I mean, just like the pound, gilts as well on the day of the election and the results, the kind of setback that gilts faced, that's completely wiped out as well. And even on the day of the election, traders actually were paring back on calls for a rate cut by the Bank of England. It was at 30% chance for a 25 basis point rate cut in 2020. Now that's gone up to about 76% to 80%. And that's quite a flip in a matter of 3 days. So again, it's not just about economic fundamentals, which aren't particularly really great in the UK. It's mainly about Brexit and what that means. We have had data out of the UK. Inflation's near a 3-year low. Manufacturing PMIs, I think it was one of the worst numbers in 7 years. So altogether, it isn't looking really easy for the Bank of England to, consider just staying on hold. So we did have Deutsche Bank come out today saying that they could cut as early as January.
Okay, Anuja, thank you so much for joining us today from London. That's Anuja Devnath. Now, let's get a check on what's going on in the markets and how they may be reacting to some of the events of today. So as we look at this Kaylee Lyons, it looks like it doesn't do anything dramatic, but it keeps moving up.
We are still riding, I think, that momentum because of the fact that a lot of risks have been removed from the market. That said, there's not a lot of overly good news, but the trend is higher. The moves we're seeing today are pretty marginal. You have the S&P 500 higher by less than 0.1%. And when you consider yesterday's trade, that was the tightest range we've seen since December of 2017, only about 7.2 points on the index. And we're looking at even in a tighter range today. So there's not a lot of action going on. Volatility is relatively subdued. But when you look at the action in other asset classes that aren't equities, which have run so far, look at bonds. The 10-year yield is now crossed 190 again. You're seeing oil, although it's flat on the day, was higher for the past 4 days. Of course, that a riskier asset. So it is still a risk on trend. We may just be slowing down as we head into year-end.
The one thing that seems absolutely clear, I think, is they don't care about impeachment. Whether they vote on impeachment or not, it's just that the markets don't seem to react at all.
Yeah, not really seeming to react. I think the market pretty much knows what they should have priced in at this point, and unless there's a huge surprise in the Senate, for example, there's really not a lot of risk to this risk-on rally we're seeing. They cared much more about geopolitical risks such as trade or even Brexit, which at this point seem to have calmed down. So while I'm sure people have their eyes on impeachment today, it's not going to move the market in any particular direction.
But what a difference a year makes. Remember last December what was going on in the markets? It was
bad
not
memories.
very pretty. Yeah, not very pleasant. This is much better. Okay, many thanks to Kate Alliance for that report on the markets. We turn now to Mark Crumpton. He's here with Bloomberg First Word News.
David, thank you. As we've been reporting, an historic day on Capitol Hill. After hours of debate, the Democratic-controlled chamber is expected to make Donald Trump only the third U.S. president to be impeached. The president is accused of abuse of power and obstruction of Congress. Impeachment would set the stage for a trial in the Senate next month. The Republicans who control that chamber have made it clear they will acquit the president. Timid isn't how most people would describe Stanley Druckenmiller, the investor renowned for making huge, aggressive bets, including one that infamously broke the Bank of England. Yet that's how he describes himself today. It's not that the billionaire investor has sworn off taking risk, but he tells our Eric Schatzker in an exclusive interview the current state of politics in our country has him unsure about what investments are safe.
This administration, with wondering about where the hell the next bomb is coming from, just doesn't allow me to take some of the positions I've taken historically where I just thought it was a one-way bet. To me, this was always binary and a two-way bet.
Mr. Druckenmiller is not a fan of President Trump, yet the possibility that a left-wing Democrat will be elected president is one of the three events he believes would end the decade-long bull market. The others are a major sell-off in credit markets and a sudden acceleration in inflation that prompts the Fed to jack up interest rates. Forecasters now say at least 24 tornadoes hit the southeast this week. Survey teams from the National Weather Service found evidence that twisters struck from western Louisiana to southern Georgia on Monday and Tuesday, with 10 tornadoes in Mississippi alone. The most powerful storm was a Category 3 tornado, packing winds of as much as 160 miles per hour. The severe weather killed at least 4 people. Hong Kong has canceled its traditional New Year's Eve fireworks show. The reason? Concerns over security following 6 months of pro-democracy protests. It's the latest popular event to be canceled in Hong Kong. Parades, conventions, and sports events have also been scrubbed. Global news 24 hours a day, on air and on Quick Take by Bloomberg, powered by more than 2,700 journalists and analysts in over 120 countries. I'm Mark Crumpton. This is Bloomberg. David?
Thanks so much to Mark. We've been talking about it. Mark just mentioned it's a big day in the House of Representatives as the House now takes up the question of impeachment. Nancy Pelosi is speaking right now in the House of Representatives. They're going to have about 6 hours, I think, of debate, and then they're going to vote on it sometime later this evening. You can watch it all on the Bloomberg function by going into Live Go. This is Balance of Power on Bloomberg Television and on Bloomberg Radio.
Politics comes to Congress to impeach the president, but every one of us, as our first act as a member of Congress, on this historic House floor.
You're not supposed to begin the...
You know it's out there somewhere, but you just keep missing out. I'm talking about your dream job. Now it's easier to find and land your next role with the LinkedIn app. Build connections, keep in touch, and be the first to hear about new jobs. LinkedIn has more openings than applicants. And sometimes all it takes is one LinkedIn connection to land the job that's right for you. Don't miss out. Get your next big break and find the job meant for you. Download the free LinkedIn app today.
Christmas, a time for celebrating, unwrapping and unwinding. Capture every moment with an epic iPhone 6S with a 12-megapixel camera. Now only $12.99 a month from Tesco Mobile, saving you £72. It's just one celebrating 100 years of great value. Go in store or search Tesco Mobile. Tesco Mobile. Every little helps.
Saving £2 per month over 36 months was £14.99. 36-month credit and rolling monthly usage agreements required. Subject to status. Terms apply. See tescomobile.com/terms.
Need last-minute gifts? At littlewoods.com, find the latest toys, tech, fashion and fragrance from the brands they love. Order by midnight on Sunday the 22nd of December for inclusive delivery in time for Christmas. All with free returns. Own Christmas at littlewoods.com. Available on most small in-stock items.
For the independent bookseller who found you that first edition.
For the baker who brings the smell of freshly baked breads to your door.
And for the barista who never needs to ask your name.
We've all got a part to play.
Every little tap keeps your high street alive.
And helps your communities thrive.
So if you love where you live, shop small.
Shopping on your local high street can make a big difference. Shop small. Only by American Express.
I used to be a bit of a rubbish sleeper. I'd toss and turn all night. And somehow I could never find the comfy bit of the mattress. It was a proper nightmare. That's what brought me here. Testing mattresses in the Which Test Lab. We use a custom-made barrel rolling machine to simulate a decade's worth of use. And the mattresses that perform best are the only ones we recommend for your bedroom.
Which tests harder so you can buy smarter. Visit which.co.uk.
The extraordinary sale is now on at Bicester Village, with up to 60% off the recommended retail price at participating boutiques until the 24th of December. Enjoy luxury for less at Emma Bridgewater, The White Company, Molton Brown, The Creuset, and many more. With free parking, all-day festive dining, and restaurants open late, it's the perfect time to do your Christmas shopping. The extraordinary sale at Bicester Village.
I'm Ben. I used to be homeless. I'd sleep in the train station, stuff newspapers in my clothes to keep warm. Sometimes I thought I wouldn't wake up. No one should have to live like this. The Crisis Christmas Centre was a safe place. We got hot meals, health checks, and support. In the new year, they helped me find work and a home. This Christmas, you can reserve a place for someone who's homeless for just £28.87. Go to crisis.org.uk today and help someone like me take their first steps out of homelessness. Thank you.
Ho, ho, ho. Who's made a list this year?
I want a new phone, one with amazing cameras, ultra-wide lens, of course, live focus video. Well, it has to be 5G ready to stream all my films. Can it come with something awesome to listen to them through?
Darling, I think he was talking to the kids.
Get everything you want and more. Purchase a Samsung 5G ready device and claim a pair of silver wireless Galaxy Buds at no extra cost. Shop our 5G handsets in store or online at your local O2 store or o2.co.uk. 18 plus. Offer excludes Galaxy Fold 5G. Purchased by the 25th of the 12th 19. Claim from Samsung within 30 days. T's and C's apply.
Next time on the New Yorker Radio Hour, Greta Gerwig on bringing Louisa May Alcott's novel Little Women to the big screen.
And U.S. stock index futures, they're little change to higher as investors
practice imagining themselves as women.
Listen to this episode of the New Yorker Radio Hour on TuneIn today.
A lot of people aren't aware that TuneIn lets you listen to the same terrestrial stations that you pick up on your FM AM dial, except you can hear them from anywhere. To see all the stations broadcasting in your area, find the local radio section on the home screen. Keep it local with TuneIn.
Far wing elevates, triple bucket.
The war of the crown. The shot clock ticks down. Will the ball go in? The suspense is pure torture, but you wouldn't miss this for the world. And the replays just don't cut
the
it.
Sideline, the man Fleet for three.
TuneIn Premium brings you every minute of the NBA season streaming live, so you can be there when it matters most. Hear it now, hear it live on TuneIn.
Pump fake in the lane, turnaround jumper from 8 feet is good on
Search NBA today to start listening.
Want to hear about the latest and greatest things to listen to on TuneIn? For reminders of the biggest live sports games, debates, and breaking news stories, follow @TuneIn on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram to stay connected with the audio that matters to you.
What does the USMCA mean specifically for manufacturers?
Well, good afternoon, David. I actually have a couple of numbers for you. For you specifically is 29, and you might not remember that number, but that's actually the point spread from the game where my Buckeyes beat your Wolverines.
Yeah, thank you very much. I appreciate it. Let's move on from that, Jay, if you don't mind. Okay, yeah, exactly. Thanks a lot, buddy.
Yeah, no worries. But the real number that we ought to be talking about today is the 2 million jobs that the North American trade relationship here in North America means for manufacturers in the United States. 2 million American manufacturing jobs. So we're very, very excited about getting USMCA across the line. We're very pleased that the Trump and specifically Ambassador Lighthizer has finalized these negotiations and moved this forward.
So where will it take us, Jay? And I ask it for this reason. The president came in really focused on creating jobs, and specifically in the manufacturing sector. And for the first couple of years of the administration, that happened, and then they came back off. They aren't quite back down to where they were, but it's pretty darn close. So overall, I think trade has taken back to some extent what he created with some of the stimulus. Do you anticipate this will take it back up again?
Yeah, I think manufacturers are very optimistic about the passage of this agreement, and also the gains that we've made with the Phase 1 agreement with China. Trade has been, you've made the point, it's been pretty vexing for manufacturers after a great year of gains from tax reform and regulatory certainty. So we're very pleased that we've kind of broken down this barrier, and we're getting ready to move forward. It looks like we're going to have a very positive vote in the House tomorrow for USMCA.
And let's talk about the changes that the Democrats worked. Nancy Pelosi, the Speaker of the House, talked about how much they transformed it. How are manufacturers with that? On the one hand, we have some of the labor changes, the arbitration panels to really enforce the labor provisions. On the other hand, we also we didn't make the progress that some of the United States wanted to make on the biologics.
Yeah, thanks for bringing it up, because those are some concerns that manufacturers have. There's no doubt that we would have preferred to see some other provisions in there, like intellectual property protection for biologics. Senator Portman mentioned that the digital economy didn't exist 25 years ago. He's exactly right about that. On the other hand, the advent of biologics wasn't around 25 years ago. We would have been very happy to see some progress there. We hope that future agreements, especially with China, are protecting the intellectual property of our pharmaceutical products as well.
We're talking with Jay Timmons. He's president and CEO of the National Association of Manufacturers. So James, give us a sense, if you can, of the geography manufacturing uptake in jobs, because as we know, there were certain key states such as Wisconsin, my home state of Michigan, where yes, we did lose to your Buckeyes, but Michigan and Pennsylvania, those will be key states going forward. Are the manufacturing jobs that you're looking toward creating evenly distributed? Will they show up in states like that?
So they are. We're seeing a revival, a strengthening, if you will, of manufacturing all across the country in all sectors. But as we just discussed, there was a bit of a pause as manufacturing optimism took a fairly significant hit over the last 3 months. We went from the upper 80s and low 90s down to the 60s in terms of optimistic outlook for the economy. That number has actually stabilized in our most recent quarterly survey, and I think that's a reflection of manufacturers' belief that we're finally making some progress on the trade front. And our survey was actually taken before the announcement of USMCA. So we feel very good that manufacturing confidence is going to continue to increase. And what that means is it means more investment, more job creation, higher wages and benefits as we move forward. So I think you're going to see that geographically all across the country, and I think you'll see it in every sector too.
Jay, just one last thought on China, because we haven't talked about that. We're talking about USMCA. Yeah. If we do have this Phase 1 deal, will that affect manufacturers? We hear more about farmers.
It's definitely going to impact manufacturers. We were frankly thrilled and surprised that so much was achieved, at least in the announcement of what was agreed to with China. Intellectual property protections, very hard intellectual property protections that are verifiable and enforceable, seem to be part of that deal. It's very, very exciting for us that we've made that progress, because that is something that presidents of both parties, trade ambassadors of both parties have been stymied over for decades with China. Major victory, I believe, for the Trump administration, for Ambassador Lighthizer, and certainly for manufacturers in America.
Okay, thank you so much, Jay. Really good to have you there, despite your allegiance to the Ohio State Buckeyes. It's Jay Timmons, he's president and CEO of the National Association of Manufacturers. And a reminder that you can watch and listen to the impeachment debate as it's happening right now on the floor of the House. That's Doug Collins, Congressman for Georgia. You can go to the Bloomberg and use the function Live Go. This is Balance of Power on Bloomberg Television and Radio.
He said it would be dangerous.
Rich is just a really, really, really good guy. The term good egg isn't enough to describe him. He's also certified organic and free range. Rich puts the cap back on everything. The toothpaste, the olive oil, the shampoo, everything. He lets his 10-year-old nephew beat him at virtual tennis, even though he can straight up slay his 10-year-old nephew in virtual tennis. When the toilet paper is running low, Rich replaces the roll on the actual holder, not just on the back of the toilet. Rich is texting and driving. Rich, no. What are you doing, Rich? I was just telling everyone how great you are. Texting and driving makes good people look bad. Visit StopTextStopWrecks.org, a public service announcement brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
Hey, it's me, your cell phone. We need to talk about something serious. I know you love me. I know you like using me wherever you are, but I feel like this isn't working out when you're driving. I know you may think that it's possible to focus both on me and the road, but I just don't feel the same way. I think we should spend time away from each other when you're driving. It's for the best.
Visit StopTextStopWrecks.org. A message brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, Project Yellow Light, and the Ad Council.
You can't be expected to research every industry.
You do have an incredible vantage point.
Or new technology.
The United States is usually early adopting in terms of technologies.
Or trend.
This is going to fit into the grander scheme of electric vehicles.
And really, why should we already do? Bloomberg Business Week with Carol Massar and Jason Kelly. Weekday afternoons at 2 on Bloomberg 1130, the Bloomberg Business app, and BloombergRadio.com. Bloomberg, the world is listening.
With the Bloomberg Business of Sports Report, I'm Michael Barr. Scott Boras showed up at baseball's winter meetings with his own press conference backdrop. Boras, with his high-profile clients, courted by powerful owners and a polarizing figure for fans, baseball's most famous agent negotiated $814 million of contracts in a little over 3 days last week. All told, he projects his deals will top $1.2 billion and lift his career agreements past $9 billion. A Utah Jazz fan who was banned for life from Vivint Smart Home Arena is now suing Houston Rockets star Russell Westbrook for $100 million for emotional distress. The NBA star says Shane Keisel made racial and inappropriate remarks at him when he played for Oklahoma City. Toyota confirmed that it will be part of the advertising lineup for Super Bowl 54 on Fox TV. And that is a Bloomberg Business of Sports report. I'm Michael Barr.
This is Balance of Power on Bloomberg Television and Radio. I'm David Weston. We have a bit of breaking news right now. Shares of SNC-Lavalin are soaring as trading resumes in the Canadian Contractor. As a unit of the company just settled Canadian fraud charges. You remember, this is the company that had gotten into trouble and got actually Premier Justin Trudeau in a lot of problems up there because he tried to settle this deal. Well, now the company has agreed to pay $213 million over 5 years to settle the charge. Canada's Ethics Commissioner ruled in August that Prime Minister Justin Trudeau inappropriately interfered in SNC's behalf to ease the legal problem. So that's developing right now with SNC-Lavalin. In the meantime, let's talk about the stock of the hour. The stock of the hour is Dish. Dish Network is one of the best performers in the S&P 500 today, surging the most since August after the company's chairman signaled billions in financing for a new wireless network. Kaylee Lyons is here with more. This is an exciting story. We're going to have a whole new way of getting our cell phone service.
Well,
right?
Potentially. Ask Charlie Eargan. But he was testifying in the antitrust hearing for Mobile and Sprint, of course, state attorneys general against that $26.5 billion merger, saying that it's going to limit competition, as a result raise prices for consumers. And Dish is a part of their argument that it won't, because Dish is creating its own network, in part used from assets that Sprint is going to sell them. Sprint offloading its prepaid Boost Mobile to Dish as part of this deal reached with regulators. And Ergen also said in his testimony that T-Mobile is going to allow the use of its network as it builds out its own. Now, where the optimism for Dish is coming in today is Ergen says he's going to have the financing to do this. He says banks have pledged him about $10 billion, and he says they're going to be able to compete from day one.
So he's got $10 billion, he says, at least from the banks and loans. He's also got the business, the brand that he's inheriting, which is paid service. He says he can start on day one. But why was Sprint so willing to give up this prepaid service? It's not necessarily the most attractive part of the the business.
No, it's not. I mean, you have to consider Boost Mobile lost over 200,000 subscribers last year. It's far less in terms of revenue. Postpaid service, it makes about 20% less than prepaid. And then when you just look at Dish as a whole, it's going to start with about 9 million subscribers to Sprint's 50 million. So that's the argument of the state attorneys general here, is that there's really no way that Dish is going to be able to replace Sprint in terms of competition. Now, Dish says that it's going to start as prepaid, but eventually it is going to build out a postpaid service, which would allow it to compete with the likes of AT&T and Verizon and get those more lucrative customers. The question really is just how fast is Dish realistically going to be able to do that?
Exactly. And in order to go fast, how much they have to compete on price, which means the margins go down, not just for Dish, but also for the other players in the market like Verizon and AT&T.
Right. Well, and that's the argument of T-Mobile and Sprint in the merger. They're saying it's not actually going to lead to higher costs for consumers because the two of them together can cut costs, which means they can lower prices. But again, all of this, the question at the trial.
Very exciting. Okay, thank you so much to Kaylee Lice for that report on Dish. Up next, 2019 has been a big year for antitrust enforcement. We look forward to what we can expect in 2020 in today's edition of Antitrust Angst. That's coming up next on Balance of Power on Bloomberg Television and on Bloomberg Radio.
This is a Bloomberg Market Minute. U.S. stocks are posting modest gains. The Dow is up 8 points, S&P 500 up 2, the Nasdaq climbing 19 points. Shares of General Mills are up today after posting profit that topped analysts' estimates. But FedEx shares are lower after the company lowered its profit forecast for the year and reported quarterly results that were below expectations. There's a big transaction in the insurance industry. New York Life is buying a business from Cigna that sells non-medical insurance products to employers. The price tag, $6.3 billion. In High Ridge Brands, the owner of Zest Soap and VO5 shampoo has filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy and plans to sell itself in a court-supervised process. The company listed as much as $500 million in liabilities in its bankruptcy petition. Donna Wilson, Bloomberg Radio.
Asset managers who seize change to launch new strategies, add distribution channels, or exploit new technology to re-engineer the investor experience are often rewarded. However, in an industry paralyzed with complexity, few act with agility or decisively. Few run their business strategically. Yet, the most competitive managers in the market know with the right partner and a flexible operating platform, you can. Go boldly toward change with SEI Investment Manager Services.
I'm Steve Meyer, president of SEI's Investment Manager Services. At SEI, we understand the emerging forces that will define success for asset managers and what firms will need to compete tomorrow. That's why we continually optimize SEI's global operating platform. If your business requires greater agility, our advanced technology, integrated best-in-class systems, and multi-asset expertise can be your catalyst for business transformation.
With SEI Investment Manager Services, you lead the charge in a competitive marketplace. Learn more at SEIC.com/seizechange.
Welcome back to the Dog Show. Up next, we have Satchmo. Satchmo is a member of the Shelter Pet Group.
That's right, a group known especially for their couch-snuggling, ball-chasing, face-licking, and, of course, companionship. Now, let's see him in action.
Look how he makes eye contact with his person.
That's actually known as the treat stare.
How intuitive. And now he appears to be excitedly turning in circles.
The happy dance so common with this group.
But really, the best way to know an amazing shelter pet like Satchmo is to meet one.
Visit theshelterpetproject.org today. Adopt.
Brought to you by Maddie's Fund, the Humane Society of the United States, and the Ad Council.
Financial leaders enjoy talking with Tom Keene and Jonathan Farrell.
What was it like having the giant darken the door every once in a while?
Experts appreciate it when what they have to say is understood.
Do you think that we might have seen a cyclical peak in the labor market?
It's the same reason we're recommending Bloomberg Surveillance to you.
Everything you thought would happen is happening.
Weekday mornings at 7 Eastern on Bloomberg Radio, the Bloomberg Business app, and BloombergRadio.com. Bloomberg, the world is listening.
From New York, this is Balance of Power on Bloomberg Television and Radio. I'm David Weston. For Bloomberg First Word News, we're going to go now to Mark Crumpton.
David, the House is pressing toward its historic votes to impeach President Trump, arguing over the charges he faces and the legitimacy of the probe. Speaker Nancy Pelosi, who arrived at the back of the chamber as the day-long session was underway, has the Democratic votes needed to make Mr. Trump just the third U.S. president to be impeached, exercising what she called one of the most solemn powers granted to us by the Constitution. The Trump administration wants Americans to pay less for prescription medications. The government unveiled a plan today to loosen restrictions on importing foreign drugs and get more inventory from Canada. That incited backlash in Canada, where some said it could lead to shortages of critical medicines. Timid isn't how most people would describe Stanley Druckenmiller, the investor renowned for making huge aggressive bets, including one that infamously broke the Bank of England. Yet that's how he describes himself today. It's not that the billionaire investor has sworn off taking risk, but he tells our Eric Schatzker in an exclusive interview the current state of politics in our country has him unsure about which investments are safe.
This administration, with wondering about where the hell the next bomb is coming from, just doesn't allow me to take some of the positions I've taken historically where I just thought it was a one-way bet. To me, this was always binary and a two-way bet.
Mr. Druckenmiller is not a fan of President Trump, yet the possibility that a left-wing Democrat will be elected president is one of the three events he believes would end the decade-long bull market. The others are a major sell-off in credit markets and a sudden acceleration in inflation that prompts the Federal Reserve to jack up interest rates. Australia recorded its hottest day on record Tuesday, with the average maximum temperature across the country topping 105 degrees. The oppressive heat is being made worse by devastating brush fires. Officials warn the demand for air conditioning is putting pressure on the nation's vulnerable power grid. Global news 24 hours a day, on air and on Quick Take by Bloomberg, powered by more than 2,700 journalists and analysts in over 120 countries. I'm Mark Crumpton. This is Bloomberg. David?
Thanks so much, Mark. 2019 was an eventful year in antitrust law, with the Justice Department overruled on the AT&T Time Warner merger, its approval of the T-Mobile Sprint merger challenged by the states, and an open fight breaking out between the FTC and the DOJ over patent licensing by Qualcomm. It's the source of today's antitrust angst, and we're pleased to welcome now Jennifer Rhee. She's Senior Antitrust Litigation Analyst for Bloomberg Intelligence, and Bill Baer of Arnold & Porter. Mr. Baer earlier served as the Assistant Attorney General in charge of the Antitrust Division. Great to have you both here. So, Jennifer, as I say, just starting to look at 2019 before 2020, it was quite a year, and there was a lot of difference of opinion going on.
It's been, I think, eventful is a great word. It's been odd, it's been unpredictable, and certainly differences of opinion. I think you mentioned FTC v. Qualcomm, and that's the one that stands out the most to me, because you really have completely divergent views on the theory of that case coming from not just between the DOJ and FTC, but actually among the FTC commissioners as well. And really extreme, I think, real divergence on their positions. So that's going to play out next year, because the arguments on appeal from the district court's decision in that case will be in February, and maybe we'll even get a decision at the end of next year.
So, Bill, what's going on in your old shop? Because back 100 years ago when I actually practiced antitrust law, normally FTC and DOJ sort of worked it out behind the scenes, and now it's not just the Qualcomm situation, but now they're both going after the same companies on tech. They don't seem to be getting along so well anymore.
It's unusual and more than a little bit unprecedented. There's always friction between the FTC and the Antitrust Division, because both want to work on interesting matters. But they have an internal process to sort it out and make sure no company is subject to duplicative investigations. This time it seems to have broken down and spilled out into the public. There was Senate hearings where senators on the Republican side and the Democratic side challenged what was going on and questioned whether or not these two agencies are doing well by the public interest in terms of letting fights go on.
Well, Jen, there's the public interest. There's also the interest of companies trying to figure out what the rules are by which they decide on mergers. And now you've got DOJ and FTC that might come out in different results. And if that weren't enough, now you got the states coming in and say, you know what, we don't think they're enforcing the federal antitrust laws well enough. We're going to join in the T-Mobile Sprint situation.
Yeah, that's right. And I don't really know what that's going to do to the merger and acquisition scenario going forward, because, this is so much unpredictability. And these companies now are not just, you're exactly right, depending on which agency you get, you could have a different outcome. Now, that's not right. right because they're enforcing the same laws. And so even the remedy, because you have an FTC that still seems willing to impose a remedy that's behavioral, whereas the DOJ doesn't want to go down that route. And then on top of it with the states, you have 50 enforcers. So you could get cleared, as happened with T-Mobile Sprint, by the federal agencies and then have the states go after the case. So, and I think that's part of the reason why the states are still undergoing their own investigation of the big tech platforms, because I feel like they want to stake a space there that if the federal enforcers don't do something that they think is appropriate, they can then go forward.
We're talking with Bill Baer, former Assistant Attorney General for Antitrust, and Jen Rhee of Bloomberg Intelligence. So, Bill, what about tech? Let's focus on that, because that seems to be a big target for antitrust authorities of all sorts going into 2020.
Right, Europe as well as the United States. There's been a lot of action in Europe the last couple.
Really going after him, yeah.
She is. Going forward, I think we're going to see a big 2020. DOJ is looking at some of the high-tech platforms. The FTC is, as Jen mentioned, so are a number, almost all of the state's attorney general. Where it goes, we don't know. At the end of the day, people need to remember that if you think there's a problem with a successful platform, you got to show that not just that they were successful, but they engaged in behavior that harmed competition. And that's a challenge.
Well, let's take one up now that reported there's an investigation going on, which is Facebook and what they're doing with their various apps and sort of cross-selling, as I understand it. There are reports that actually they're really moving forward with that investigation.
It's interesting. They are, according to the press reports, they are talking about getting a preliminary injunction to stop Facebook from